We obviously on to the next game, and the opponents get better each week. Watched quite a bit of Pitt, and very similar scheme-wise in all three phases to what we saw last year. A little different personnel-wise, but we've got to continue to work hard in all three phases, bring along our offense and defensively, and even in special teams to try to get a little better each week, and then head out of here Friday morning and fly across the country to Pitt and get ready to play a game.
A strong defensive performance in the last game. What have you been most pleased with so far from the defense?
Well, we've been pretty good on first down, and then in the last game we improved considerably on third down.
You've won 9 of your last 11 true road games, Mike. You're 33-16, I think, since you beat Nebraska 10 years ago on the road, which was kind of a big deal at the time.
Right.
Is that a characteristic of your program that you're most proud of, that you've developed a consistency on the road?
I think as you, if you're fortunate enough to be in a place for a long time, you can build enough continuity and hopefully learn how to play well on the road. One of the reasons for that is we have a veteran quarterback who's been here a long time. In my opinion, that gives you a chance to play well on the road, a guy that you would hope wouldn't be flustered. That could be as much a reason for anything. And then we like how we prepare and the travel and different things. We think that helps us some. Whether it does or not, I don't know if we ever have any proof of that. But the maturity of the program would probably be the leading contributor to success on the road.
When you were 3-11 on the road to start, was it just the most maddening chapter of your head coaching time here?
Well,
because you were close in a lot of those.
We were, but our first year we just weren't very good. I mean, we had poor quarterback play, and we were learning new systems, went through a lot of changes, and on and off the field, and we just weren't very good. But since then, we've developed a little continuity and learned how to try to play better in some of those games on the road.
Back to defense, Mike. You came in thinking you had pretty good team speed over there. Felt like you'd be pretty good. In the past, it's almost been like you had bell cows, like an Ogbon. Different guys have carried it. But you look at the defensive numbers. You got 5-6 guys every game that are causing turnovers, lost yardage plays. It's more of a team defense effort than it's been.
And I mentioned that throughout the summer, that we didn't have that guy that people were going to talk about being an early round pick. But I did like our overall team speed. I liked our depth. I thought we had more guys that could play in a game than even we had over the last couple of years. And I think you're seeing some of that at this time. We lost Henry, which was unfortunate, and we won't have Bundage for the first half. And then Magruder's day-to-day. So we might have to have some of those guys playing a little more. But overall, I think our team speed is better than it's been in a number of years.
And you say all that, Tucker was one of the guys that you count and say had a heck of a game defensively.
He got a lot of work, and Tucker plays a big role on our special teams and got a lot of snaps on defense. And he's a veteran guy, so he understands commitment and what it takes to play well and have to play more than what you originally thought you'd have to play in any particular game.
Along those same lines, is Jossie the same kind of guy, and how much more is going to be asked of him?
He'll have to play a little more. I think we may shuffle a few guys around to try to balance out that depth chart. That's one of the areas that we're always concerned about, is in trying to balance the number of plays and try to make it to where we're successful enough in this game against Pitt is all that matters, but then try to forecast down the line if possible. So we may have to shuffle a few guys around at some point this week.
It seems kind of rare that you have 2 injuries and the 2 guys we're talking about plugging in are both seniors. A lot of the time a guy who's been a backup, ends up going somewhere else.
Right.
What is it about Jossie and Kirk that you think has led to them sort of sticking around and being in a spot where they're helping you out?
They've been lifetime guys for us that have been really committed. Jossie has gone through a transition where he's really grown up a lot in the last couple of years, and And Tucker's always been a very squared away guy. And that's the one thing that I worry about. They talk about these new transfer rules, and that's why I hope football never gets into the world basketball lives in that schools like Oklahoma State can develop men. They can develop young men, and you see the results of it in the situation that we're in right now. And that's a tribute to Rob Glass and the culture and the program that we have here.
I watched in August the Clemson-Pittsburgh game on television in its entirety. And, of course, you played them, so you're very familiar with last year's Pittsburgh team. But I was startled at how physical Pittsburgh was and really matched Clemson with physicality through what you've seen on film this year. Even though they're rebuilding in some skill positions, are they still a really physical?
Right. They believe in being very physical. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to block down and pull, and his mentality is Big Ten, and defensively is the same way. They're in an attack mode, and I tried to mention that last year, that when we played them, they were a really good football team, regardless of how some of the games end up. You go on the road and beat the team that won the national championship, you got to be a pretty good team. And so they do a good job with their schemes. They have some younger players that are playing now than what they had last year. But with all their movement and their shifts and their fly motions and speed sweeps and such, if you're not really gap sound, you can get in a bad position. They got us in bad positions last year. And then defensively, they're going to play the game the way they want to play it. You're going to have to mix it up and be successful and running it and throwing it, in order to have a chance to play well.
Haven't seen some of those sweeps you're talking about with the receivers and whatever. How much does that help you that you've seen it and lived through it now and probably going to see it again?
Some. It's a little different, though, in the way that they do it, and it's all about assignment and gap responsibility based in the movement and change of strength and then the fly motion. And it's a good system. If you commit to that system like they do, in my opinion, just from an outsider looking in, not being involved in it, you have to really do it a lot, which they do. I'm not sure you could do that and do other things, but you have to be gap sound. It's a lot like read option football. Somebody's got to be responsible for every guy, and then you also have to play the pass when they fake it to both guys. So you have to be really sound defensively to defend the concept and what they're running on offense.
I counted 15 different motions on offense against Penn State, and then they come at you with some unbalanced, and they mix up their formations. How much of that is necessary? How much of it is eye candy, just to take you off the game?
Yeah, from a distance, it's a lot like what Les and I did when we were here together. Very similar when you look at it, and they have a reason for trying to gain a gap, an advantage in a down scheme, and then if you're not careful, they can get you out of a gap, and then also if you don't adjust with them, they can find a weakness, and so the similarities are there between what we did here and what they're doing there.
What do you see? Oh, go ahead.
Back-to-back road games, and looking at your schedule, you don't have back-to-back home games until the final two conference games of the year. That unusual schedule, you're home and away, home and away, home and away.
Yeah, I don't. That's above my pay grade. Somebody else does all that. I don't have an answer for that, but it is a little unusual. It is what it is. We load up Friday and get on it and go play.
You have a pretty good pay grade.
Ain't nobody.
Well, maybe a mental approach. That part's above my pay grade. I don't have control over scheduling. I guess that's what I'm pointing toward.
Your secondary hasn't forced any interceptions. AJ Green's got overturned last week, but haven't really given up any big plays yet. How have you sort of evaluated them over these first 2 weeks?
They're coming along. We're obviously young, and the teams we play know that. I'm sure Pitt's going to run their play stuff and run the ball, run number 10 down the field, and another guy, and try to throw it over our head and challenge us. Minimizing big plays is important. Last year, that was one of the issues that we had. We gave up too many big plays in the secondary. We've done a better job of that. There's give and take, unless you're just ultimate talented where you can press and challenge every throw. Sometimes you give up the underneath stuff to be sound in the deep stuff, and there's give and take there. It's ebb and flow with every game.
Defending you guys is a challenge for other teams. It seems like every week we ask if you were surprised on how somebody approached you.
Right.
Last year, the way Pitt defended you guys, do you expect them to do it again that way? I mean, that's always been sort of his.
Well, that's their base. That's who they are. That's the world that he's lived in for a long time, and I was surprised at the way South Alabama defended us last week. I would have not thought that they would try to line up and overload the box and play press. So it's hard to tell. One thing's is evident that people have a base system and they run their plays. Can they change structures within a week's practice? I don't know. Now, can they play, instead of playing a lot of quarters and soft, can they play some two deep and back up? Sure, I would think that that's probably a pretty easy fit to their system.
Mike, what did you think about the Big 12 week?
I saw OU score, and I saw West Virginia score. I saw Texas score. I saw Kansas score. I saw Kansas State. I did Tech play. And then I saw TCU. I didn't see really any games, but I saw some scores. And so it was, I'm glad that we were able to have a good weekend. And
What you have?
No, I was turtle hunting and skeet shooting. And I saw the last 6 to 8 minutes of it. So I saw, kind of a good part of it for Oklahoma. But I obviously saw the score, and then when they were toward the game, they were showing the stats and whatever, and it looked like Oklahoma pretty much dominated that game.
How hard is turtle hunting?
Well, you gotta. Well, it's not, because they're really good. When they know you get around them, they jump in the water, and so you got to kind of sneak up on them a little bit. At my place, we have quite a few of those off-road vehicles. We call gators, and so they're accustomed to the sound of the gator. So if you drive a gator by, they won't move. They'll stay there. But if you walk up on them, you can't get very close to them because they're too smart. They'll jump off in the water. So we use the gators as our friend, and try to keep as many turtles as we can out of the ponds because they eat your fish.
Marcel showed what he can do around the goal line. Again, could have had 3 touchdowns.
Sure.
Did he kind of fall right back into that role? I mean, I know missing a year can be rough on a guy at that point.
He's really not missed a beat. I think that being out a year has helped him. One, he's older, he's more mature. He's been through a season of not having something he loves. And we use him down there a lot because he's a big body guy, and he was a good basketball player. He understands rebounding, same concept in catching a ball down there. And then, we roll him in up the field, just based on keeping guys fresh. But he's certainly a good weapon for us when we get down there in the red zone.
What'd you learn about Amendola from the other night that maybe you didn't know before?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think we would probably be better off taking 15-yard penalties before we kick a field goal and back it up. He's very comfortable in kicking long field goals. It has been up to this point. I think he was 3 for 4, right? So he had a good night. The one he missed, he was just a little bit more of a punch than a finish. He's still very young and inexperienced, but I think that he has a future, and he's level-headed. He doesn't lose his focus. A lot of times with kickers, the issue is them mentally getting whacked out over not doing well, and I don't see that with him. He seems to be pretty level-headed.
Why do you think he's better on long field goals than the shorter ones?
You got me. I'm not sure. If somebody said you need to guess, I would say he focuses, and he realizes that I have to be smooth through the ball. He has a really strong leg. So he says, okay, I know my leg's strong enough. I just need to be smooth through the ball. And I think sometimes on the shorter kicks, he kind of takes it for granted and punches it a little bit instead of just kicking through it. I'm certainly no expert in the kicking area. Hauser knows a lot more about that than I do, but just from an outsider looking in, that's what I see. And hopefully that's just due to him being young, and he'll get through that and become more consistent in what would be more of the easier field goals.
On the plus side, it's a nice weapon to have, right? A
Sure.
guy that can bang one from a long way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's nice to have a guy that can kick one fairly consistent from 50 plus. It certainly opens up a few more doors for you offensively.
Maybe it's like some people hit a driver are comfortable
Right.
hitting a driver and not so much with a wedge,
Well, and it's would I rather hit a hard 9-iron or a soft 8? It's kind of the same concept, and so I wish I had an answer for that. I would say just him focusing more on the longer field goals would be my reason.
Most of your guys after the game the other night kind of characterized this as a business trip and a business-like effort, not a lot of extra emotion. What have you discovered when you take your teams into an NFL venue? Since the guys who have the ability, that's where they want to be. The guys who know they're not NFL players love the fact they get to play in a stadium like that in their career. Is that an extra benefit on the road when you're playing in an NFL venue?
I think they're excited about playing in this setting. I know I'm excited about seeing the facility and all that. I mean, I'm a fan and have always watched Pittsburgh and so I'm excited about seeing this new facility's been there. How many years has it been there now? 3 or 4 years. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I would say they probably enjoy going through the locker rooms and being there in that environment.